with this, because this was an overnight event for a lot of us, and severe weather is still possible this morning. Notice that we have red on our map anywhere from Jacksonville all the way down towards Sarasota. Even Vero and Fort Myers have that threat. Torcon value is a 3. The higher the number, the higher the threat. But this just shows you that all you need is one little spin up. By the way, by the Clearwater area, a lot of these are starting as water spouts and then coming ashore. It's the same thing. A water spout is a tornado over the water. So we just call it a water spout over the water and then a tornado over land. I know we should just probably call them all tornadoes because that's what they are. But geographically, there's a little bit of a difference in name. That threat does continue mainly this morning into the afternoon hours. Tornado watch until 9 a.m., though I saw that there was discussions that there might need to be another tornado watch issued past the 9 o'clock hour. So we'll see if they continue to do that. We do have one tornado warning, this one moving at 40 miles an hour. So they're moving very, very fast here. And of course, it's still dark out in a lot of spots. And so it's going to be hard to see that. Marion County until 6:30 local time. This is radar indicated. If you know anyone that lives essentially, north and east of this area, watch for it. The circulation is not super tight, but these things can happen really quick. So anytime there's a tornado warning, you want to seek shelter, get to the lowest level of your home. Right now, this is making its way towards Fellowship. So seek shelter, or wake someone up and let them know that they have a strong thunderstorm headed their way. We have, yesterday actually had 3 reported tornadoes, 2 of them in Florida, 1 other in Washington State, which was pretty wild. And a lot of wind damage. We could see a lot of gusty winds again today, 30, 40 mile an hour winds. There's Crystal River Emergency Management reporting that tornado. And then we also have here in Dunedin reports of damage in North Clearwater from a tornado. This is what I was talking about. That was a water spout and then came ashore. Again, a tornado is a tornado over water or over land. So what's happening now? This big, massive moisture has made its way into Alabama, Georgia, on into the Carolinas too. It's all going to pull east and south. And notice that there's plenty of lift in the atmosphere. We also have some strong low-level winds injecting into the system, and there is some spin. As we go through the day, we kind of lose that spin in the atmosphere, and all of this is going to start pushing south. But until we get there, you've got to worry about, all these strong winds that are just hauling across the area that will also just give us damaging wind gusts, too. It's not the tornadoes alone. You always have to worry about damaging wind gusts and a lot of lightning with it as well. As we go through the day, notice by noon, you could still be, getting hit hard. Look at these kidney beans coming off of the Gulf right into the Tampa Bay area. And then as we head later in the day, things will start to quiet down, relatively speaking. It lingers into tomorrow, especially central into South Florida. But it's not going to be as potent. There are your wind advisories from Orlando to Cape Canaveral, all the way down into Port St. Lucie. And, of course, Jordan, some of this rain is very heavy, so we could see some localized flooding.
Yeah, and, I mean, overall,
and show you who's going to see what, because we do have thunderstorms this morning already rumbling across I-28, making the way from Nebraska over into Iowa. And we do have the threat for strong thunderstorms today. And as Reynolds was just showing you, into tomorrow, heavy rain, that's what's going to cause that flood threat, what you see here. And it just keeps getting energized. So you don't think you're finished once the storms go through. We have another couple lines that have to get through that are actually quite potent as well. So we'll see this blow through. Look at by 9 p.m. Sioux City, Sioux Falls, down towards Omaha. We are all getting hammered with the rain, and it's going to make its way through Fort Dodge, Des Moines. You still have to wait for the upper level energy to get through until you fully clear out. Watch out not only for the winds from these thunderstorms, but also what we call synoptic scale winds. That is the big low pressure that we put on the map relative to the little thunderstorms. We have just big, huge overall winds that will be blowing through as well. So on these highways, 80, we are going to see some problems. You're going to have those windshield wipers going. Make sure you turn on those headlights. Everything rotating around here through Nebraska. You can see that spin. Look at that spin. You can actually see the low pressure. That's the big low pressure, the synoptic scale system that I was just talking about, and into Iowa from Mason City over into Cedar Rapids. It's not a great start to the day. The highway is clear, but that is going to change as we head through the day with some heavier storms coming in. This is overnight Thursday night into Friday morning. It's going to be rough for us, and it doesn't stop there. We just continue. It does take time for all of this to pull on through. Illinois, we're good right now in places like Chicago, Waukegan, but as you look over towards, Morris and also Northville, that's where we have the rain this morning. And as we go through the day, Aurora will get it, Rockford will get it, but it does take a little time because we're a little bit farther east. And there we go into our Friday afternoon, Jordan. It is going to be I'm telling you, so many people fly on Fridays there in the Chicagoland area. It's going to be a mess.
That's not happening. That storm looks potent. All right.
Away from an annular solar eclipse crossing the U.S., more than 6 million people live in the path from Oregon to Texas. And if you don't have special glasses to protect your eyes, here's an easy way to make something at home to safely view the Ring of Fire. That, of course, was the sun that you were looking at on the plate. And when there's the eclipse is happening, you actually see it kind of eaten away by the moon going past the sun. So here's a look at an annular solar eclipse and a total solar eclipse. When you have an annular solar eclipse, actually both eclipses, the moon passes between the sun and the earth. When you have an annular, it's at or near its farthest point from the earth, so it mostly covers the sun, but you have what is called the Ring of Fire. This is still, I know it looks like it might be safe to look at with the naked eye. It is not. It is not at all. You can still get damaged looking at the Ring of Fire. Of course, when you have a total eclipse, which we're going to get next year, then it completely covers the sun and you are able to take your glasses off during totality. When we have annularity, which is the equivalent of totality with an annular eclipse, that's when you have the most amount of the moon covering the sun and you have the Ring of Fire. That's called annularity. That's where we're going to see it. Eugene, Salt Lake City, Albuquerque, down into San Antonio. 90% of the sun's area will be covered by the moon, and that's why it's still dangerous for your eyes. Cloud cover, not great in Klamath Falls, but from Bryce Canyon down towards Texas, things are looking really good at Midland. This is exactly where Jordan said he would go. He said, I think you even said Midland, but didn't you say West Texas? I can't remember if you said Midland or not, but Klamath Falls might be tough to see it there with that cloud cover coming in, but a lot better in, Elko, Nevada is also with 40% too.
Yeah.
Our team of meteorologists will be positioned. Go back to America's Morning headquarters. It's October 12th. This Thursday morning is off to a rocky start for some Florida residents. Overnight tornado-warned storms tore through the Tampa Bay area, leaving behind major damage to homes, structures, debris lining streets and blocking roads. Ongoing severe weather continues to take aim at the Sunshine State and parts of the Southeast. National correspondent Justin Michaels is en route to the storm damage in Florida. He will join us live at the top of the hour. But let's get right to it because we've had tornado warnings even this morning, Jordan.
Yes, we have. We're going to come
up with those below average temperatures and the wind chills as well. We have Tropical Depression Sean. We also have Invest 94L. We're getting close to the end of the list here. We would go to a supplementary list. We also have an area to watch here in the East Pack. But let's focus in on Sean right now. Winds at 35 miles an hour. And this thing looks a complete mess. That thing is just sheared to pieces. That doesn't even look like it's a depression at this point, but okay. It stays pretty weak and disorganized as we head throughout the weekend here. So that's Sean. There's your spin right there. That's why they're calling this thing a depression. I mean, that is the most pitiful thing, and everything is just away from it. This looks much more robust, doesn't it? The second one behind it there. Again, there's your spin. Jillian has put these on, and this is just an overall more kind of broader spin right now. But this does have a 30% chance of developing as it is moving westbound here off of Africa. So we'll continue to watch this because when they have that westbound, movement, it's something that we want to keep a very close eye on, especially here for the Antilles. But we've got to get right back to Jordan because we do have a new tornado warning.
Yeah,
we need to tell you about here, and it is right into Florida, the central Florida area. This tornado warning, it does look like it has some significant spin to it as we show you on the radar. So the overall picture shows the storm streaming from west to east, the rain up to Waycross and also into Brunswick. But this is where things are getting quite intense for us. Just north of Pearson on 17, south of Palatka, Flagler, Putnam counties, watch it in Crescent City, Panoma Park. And this is moving off to the northeast at 45 miles an hour. It's moving very, very fast. So if you know anyone in the path of this storm, make sure that you seek shelter immediately. You tell them to seek shelter immediately. And we can change this. Jill, I'm having some issues getting it to continue on here. If you can just run it for me, thanks. So this area, we're using the radar out of Jacksonville. We can use the Jacksonville radar. We could use the Melbourne radar. There's also one over in Tampa. But when they shoot too high, sometimes they miss the cell. But I will say this is where we do have some of that rotation right here coming with the storm. There it is at the end. And so that's where we are worried about the rotation. So just to the north of Crescent City, if you know anyone that lives in that area, it'll cross over 100 here for us. Again, moving off to the northeast very quickly. We have had a couple reported tornadoes in Florida overnight, and we are going to see that potential continue this morning. Shell Bluff 702, Bimini 709, all the way into Palm Coast by 7:23, and then hopefully it'll blow offshore for us. But there could be more as we go through the day and through the morning hours in particular. We have that threat for severe weather. The thunderstorms are going to continue to go south as we go through the day. And yes, our Torcon is 3 out of 10. The higher the number, the higher the threat. But this doesn't mean you have no threat. It still means you have a threat. So we could have more tornadoes and more tornado warnings pop up. Our watch is until 9, and it's being discussed that perhaps the Weather Service needs to put out another watch after this 9 o'clock one expires. There are the 2 reported tornadoes on the west coast of Florida. Lots of rainfall, lots of wind reports. Dunedin, we had reports of damage here into Clearwater. Crystal River, reports of debris blocking the road, and also emergency management reported a tornado at US 19. So it has been a volatile situation overnight. Will continue to be that way at least through the morning hours here in Florida in particular. That's where we have a lot of energy. You still have spin. You have a southerly flow here coming in, and then aloft, those winds change direction a little bit. So they continue to do as we go up to 18,000 feet. So our winds go like this, and this. That gives us an indication there's some shear and some spin in the atmosphere. And look at that, another tornado warning just popping up. Jillian, maybe we can get down to that. I'll let you take over the max here so you can adjust what we're going to do. There it is for you. St. Johns County, Butler Beach, you have a tornado warning. Highly populated area here in between Palm Coast, St. Augustine, along I-95. Again, these are moving very fast. Right now, a lot of people waking up, getting ready to school, trying to get out the door to go to school, and you've got this severe weather that you have to contend with. So if you know anyone in this area, Butler Beach, Crescent Beach, tell them to seek shelter immediately. There is the rotation. You can see there's rotation there. We even have a little rotation that's pulling offshore, but this is the one that the National Weather Service is warning on. Red means your winds are going away. Green means your winds are going towards the radar, and so that is what we're seeing when we look at this. I know to the untrained eye it looks like an absolute mess, but that is the rotation. That's what I'm looking at. And so this is significant, and you should seek shelter immediately. Very heavy rain with this, big tropical air mass. So you might not be able to see it either. That may be one of the other problems with this system. So as we continue on with the forecast, this is all going to be pushing south as we head through the day. It does lose its potency, and it sticks around into tomorrow. But I'll tell you, over the next several hours into this afternoon, we could still see some big boomers. Let's now turn to the overnight tornado that was warned in Florida. It left damage behind in the Tampa Bay area. National correspondent Justin Michaels just getting to Clearwater, Florida. You know, Justin, you probably just got there in the last hour. What type of damage have you seen?
Right. Well, right now, Steph, there's lots of housing damage
here, and who's going to see what when? We're going to start you off in Nebraska and Iowa, right along the border. Very heavy rain is crossing over the Highway 29 right now, and we do see a lot of lightning with this. We'll see more as the day progresses, and you're not finished when this one line goes through. There's going to be more rain that comes in and stronger and heavier storms as we head around that 8, 9 o'clock hour. So as you're trying to get the kids down, might be kind of booming out there, which scares some, and for others, it just kind of lulls you to sleep, doesn't it? Now into Nebraska, we do have just some cloud cover here, maybe a few spits of rain, kind of. Do I turn my windshield wipers on? Do I not turn my windshield wipers on? Well, as we roll through the day, notice that things get a lot more rambunctious. Look at this line coming through around the lunchtime hour. That's going to be gnarly. Gusty winds with that. And you can see the counterclockwise spin in our low pressure coming through. There it is. And so North Platte, you're going to be in the clouds. I-80, it's going to be a wet go for you. And even into Iowa, up towards Mason City, just south of there is where we have some of those heavier showers. Crossing over 35, 380. Seeing the rain, and we are going to get more as we head through the day. So the farther east we are, The worse it will get later in the day and into tomorrow. So for our Friday, we're really going to get hit here into places like Des Moines, Creston, I-35, which is a heavily traveled, highway. Speaking of heavily traveled, we know a lot of people fly in and out of the two airports we have here in Chicago. No problems today, but I'll tell you what, this is your warning. If you're trying to fly tomorrow, there are going to be big time problems. Look what happens by Friday afternoon. So if you're watching right now and you have a morning flight, you're good. If you have an afternoon flight, you could be in big trouble. I would say try to get on one of those earlier morning flights for you because it's going to last from the afternoon. Look at that, Jordan, all the way into the midnight hours.
Oh, and then, of course, it goes.
And Orlando, both of them. You were right on that one. We are just 2 days away from an annular solar eclipse crossing the U.S. More than 6 million people live in the path from Oregon to Texas. If you don't have special glasses to keep your eyes protected, here's an easy way to make something at home to safely view the Ring of Fire. I want to show you the eclipse forecast and what exactly an annular is versus a total eclipse. Well, when you have an annular eclipse, well, for both of them, let's say this. For both of these, the moon's going to move in between the sun and the earth. With an annular, you do have the moon at its farthest point from the earth, and it covers almost all of the sun, but you still have what we call this ring of fire. You might think, oh, I can take my glasses off. You cannot. This is very, very potent still, that ring of fire. And when it is at this point, it's called annularity. When you have a total eclipse, it's called totality. Don't use totality with the annular eclipse. It's annularity. Total eclipse is when it fully covers the sun and you can take your glasses off. Where are we going to have our max annularity, or where are we going to have annularity? It's going to be 90%. That is the most that is going to get covered of the sun. It goes through Eugene, Salt Lake City, Albuquerque, San Antonio, and the cloud forecast has changed a bit. I'll tell you the best spot, Midland, Texas. San Antonio, you might have some clouds. Corpus, looking a little cloudy there. And Klamath Falls, there's a big festival there, but unfortunately might be a little too cloudy there. San Antonio, we're at 30% here, and look at that on Saturday, 11:54. But notice how long you're going to be able to see some of this stuff. I mean, starting at 11:09, annularity will be for like 4 minutes in a lot of places, so you have a lot of time to check it out there. Denton is also an awesome spot, no clouds. Our team of meteorologists will be positioned to the snow. Look at this low pressure rotating around. You can see that counterclockwise spin coming through, bringing snow to some of the higher elevations. And we could see a foot, maybe foot and a half of snow before all is said and done. So watch it on 80, 25, 15, 90, all the ones that you're used to getting that snow. It could be quite a mess. Look at this. 12, maybe 24 inches in just a few locations. You can kind of see that pink on the map, but mainly we are going to see, 3 to 5, 5 to 8, and then some of us a little bit more than that. Now, on the front side of this, we have the threat for severe weather. Nebraska down into Kansas, specifically into Omaha. There are your storms, and this is just basically one batch. This line could be severe as we head, through the day today, specifically, though, down into Nebraska. Watch everything blowing off kind of to the north and the east, and we will see even more potent storms as we head a little bit later in the day. So don't think you're finished with it once these go through. At least you can get the kids home, hopefully, and their activities will be finished by 7, though I know some of these activities last so late at night these days. Another line coming through. There's another line coming through, and they're going to make their way into Omaha, Sioux City, and Points East as we're trying to fall asleep. Jordan.
Well, the
tornado warnings right now because we have multiple tornado warnings, one on the west coast of Florida, and then this area we've been following here north of Daytona, right along I-95, and we do have 2 of them kind of overlapping. I expect that back one to expire. So here into Flagler County, we do have a tornado warning. Here's the cell that came across the highway, made its way into, and this is where we have that rotation right now. Jillian, our weather producer, is going to zoom into that. So red means your winds are going away from the radar. Green means towards. And so that's an indication that we have some circulation in the atmosphere. And if you have circulation, that means you could have a tornado at any moment, at any second. This doesn't mean we actually have a tornado. It means that we have that circulation, and you could have one at any moment in time, or it means that you have one. And it's a pretty intense signature before it gets into this box. Jill will replay it. Jilly, right before that, it's a pretty intense. Look how intense that signature is right there. That's really intense. So there's the possibility that we did have a tornado. We have yet to get damage reports, but of course we'll give them to you if we do get any. Notice this is now back to the radar, and there's a lot of rain, so you might not be able to see this either. That's one of the other problems. There's a lot of tropical moisture associated with this, and it will be cruising off the coast. These cells have been moving at 40, 45 miles an hour. So that is the first tornado warning. We want to zoom out. Did that other tornado warning expire? It might have expired, yep, because you can see the second half of that tornado warning here expired. So that's the only current tornado warning we have. We could see more tornadoes as we head through the day today. Severe weather, lightning, very gusty winds as well, a torcon of 3. And yes, the max threat is a 10. And that means you're having a tornado outbreak. So don't let your guard down, because we've already had several reported tornadoes. Tornado watch until 9 a.m. And I was reading, and there's the potential this could be extended past 9 a.m., maybe slide it down a little bit farther south as well. Here are the 2 reported tornadoes on the west coast of Florida. We'll get live to Justin in the Clearwater area in just a minute to show us the damage. Dunedin, we had damage here. In North Clearwater, we also had Crystal River, reports of debris blocking a road, and emergency management also reporting a tornado for us here, roof damage and power lines down. So this is a very intense morning, and I want to show you why. You have the moisture, we know that. Look at the winds coming up from the south here at the surface. There's a lot of energy. Anywhere you see that pink and red, that's a lot of energy, a lot of forcing in the atmosphere. Then as you go up in height, just 5,000 feet, not very high, winds shift a little bit. You go up 18,000 feet and the winds shift even more. So not only do we have some spin as looking at our winds, but there's just a lot of wind energy coming into this area. And as we go through the day, we are going to see everything drop southbound for us. And I want to show you that forecast real fast. Things will still be pretty potent, especially as we head into the afternoon hours. And we're not finished with it here around Tampa Bay, Orlando, the Space Coast. By, tomorrow, it's going to be hanging, especially into South Florida. Let's have a closer look at the overnight tornado. And we want to take you now to the Tampa Bay area. That's where national correspondent Justin Michael joins us in Clearwater. Justin, I see a lot of debris scattered about behind you.
Right.
Has there been significant damage to buildings?
Well, some of the homes are pretty.
For you here, before all of that mess gets into Chicago this morning, it is bringing rain and thunderstorms from Nebraska to Iowa, and we are not finished yet. We are going to see several more rounds come on through before we can clear this out. By the way, a lot cooler air coming in, too. There's a look at the storms for our Thursday. Look at how we have a couple rounds of it that will be coming through this evening as we're trying to get ready to bed and trying to fall asleep. I'll tell you what, there's going to be some gnarly winds with some of these cells that are pushing through. That gets through, and we still have yet. You got to get through the upper level energy, which lags behind some of that surface stuff sometimes. So thunder and lightning, I mean, I'm telling you, Nebraska is really going to be one of those areas that's going to be hit the hardest with this. Notice the line of storms that is crossing over 80 into Kearney, Nebraska. And as we push eastbound, North Platte, westbound, you can see the spin in the atmosphere, too. You see that counterclockwise flow. I think it's always cool when you see that on the radar, because you don't always get to see that. But as we work our way through Des Moines, this is this morning. Then as we go into the afternoon and evening, really the overnight hours is when it's going to hit us. This is midnight, so you could get woken up. If you didn't sleep well this week, well, this is not going to help you, or maybe it'll lull you to sleep. I finally got a good night's sleep last night. Not that anyone cares. Had a rough night of sleep this week, but there was a little bit of rain in Atlanta, and I'm thinking that's what kind of just calmed me into this nice sleep that I had. Chicago, though, as Reynolds was just talking about, it's going to be a mess tomorrow. So tomorrow morning, I would say you're fine with your flights. You'll be able to get out, but yikes, into the afternoon, this is going to wreak havoc on air travel, and it lasts through the evening hours, into the overnight hours, in fact, Jordan.
What a bummer, right? Friday.
2 days away from an annular solar eclipse crossing the U.S. More than 6 million people live in the path from Oregon to Texas. If you don't have special glasses to protect your eyes, here's an easy way to make something to safely view the Ring of Fire. There was the sun And then once you have the moon cutting across it, you'll be able to see that on your plate as well. Here's a look at the difference between annular and total solar eclipse. When it's at its max point and you see the ring of fire, you call that annularity. It's not totality, it's annularity. When you have a total solar eclipse, which we're going to have in April of 2024, that's when the moon totally blocks the sun, and that's when you have totality. That's when you can take your glasses off. You cannot take your glasses off just with annularity. It can still damage your eyes. So 90% of the sun's area will be covered by the moon. That's the max from Eugene down to Albuquerque and into San Antonio. The big question is, where are we going to have clouds? And it looks like western Texas is really the prime spot to be. We have that 20% range in Albuquerque and San Antonio, Corpus up to 44, and Klamath Falls 47%. A more detailed look here into Elko, Nevada, 40% cloud cover for us. So it could be a little on the iffy side there. Bryce Canyon National Park, we're at 35%. And by the way, annularity will last for over 4 minutes in a lot of these locations as well. So you're going to have a lot of time. Roswell, New Mexico, not too bad, 35%, and you will have annularity there at 10:41 a.m. And the whole event, notice it starts at 9:15 and lasts all the way until 12:15. So you're going to have several hours to check out little bits and pieces of this. Our team of meteorologists will be positioned. We want to show you our tornado warning. We've had multiple this morning. You can see some live cameras there also on the left-hand side of your screen in Ocala and also into Savannah, Georgia, because the rain does spread north, but it's Florida where we have that biggest threat for severe weather today. And as you see, we have a tornado warning. A warning means that a tornado is imminent or it's occurring. And unfortunately, we have had reports of tornadoes along the west coast of Florida. You should always take these seriously. Marion County until 8:45. They've all been caught up in this overall big flow from west to east, and these things are cruising at 40 to 45 miles an hour. And right now there is a little bit of rotation on this, and so that's why the National Weather Service has issued a tornado warning on this right now. I know to the untrained eye this doesn't look like much, but what you typically look for is when you're looking at this type of radar velocity, you look at green and red. When they're right next to each other like that, that's an indication that you have a tornado, or at least you have some spin in the atmosphere. This is not super well defined, but again, you remember the radars we have available to us in this area are coming out of Tampa, Jacksonville, Melbourne, and so sometimes that angle, the height of the beam is a little bit tough with some of these. This is going to be crossing over 75, so if you know anyone that's near Ocala going north or south, Ross Prairie also, you might want to give them a heads up that they do have a particularly large cell coming through and a particularly strong cell coming through with a lot of lightning and a lot of heavy rain. I mean, that Ocala camera kind of shows you how bad it is. We do have a watch until 9 a.m. Wouldn't be shocked if they extended this, not only in time, but it also in distance a little bit farther south as everything will continue to move south. We've had over the past 12 hours some areas, and this is why we worry about localized flooding. 5+ inches of rain here just to the west of I-75. Also there along the First Coast, St. Augustine, 3.36 inches. Port St. John, nearly 4 inches. The Ocala Airport also is saying that they had some minor street flooding due to the heavy rain that came on through as well. That's what you're going to have to watch for with travel in Florida. And then as we go into the Rockies, we've got snow, and we could have a foot and a half that falls. And so traveling along 80, we know if you do this trip a lot along 80, how gnarly and nasty it can get. Watch for that snow from Montana all the way down into Colorado. And then on the east side of this, we actually have the severe weather threat from Sioux City down really into Kansas. You have the threat for some stronger thunderstorms. Can't rule out a spin up. Watch for some of those stronger winds. Jordan, things have already kicked off. It's going to get worse before it gets better.
And, you know,